In the next 60 minutes, we'll be taking you through the global standard on nature-based solutions and how that can be used for coastal protection. As the world is re-emerging from a global pandemic towards the implementation of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, it's imperative future investments benefit nature and people. And to this end, IUCN has developed the first ever global standard for nature-based solutions to help design, verify, and implement nature-based solutions. In this session, we'll be diving into the global standards presented by my colleague Veronica from Switzerland, but we'll also be looking into how this standard can be implemented within coastal areas with experts from West Africa. We have Liliane, Assogba, Sessou, I'm pretty sure I'm not pronouncing that well, from the IUCN West Africa office, and Thomas Louis Price from WACA. As said, my name is Romie Goedicke, and I'm here together with my colleague Edie Blom. Edie is helping us also with the chat functions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them during this session. What will happen is, after my brief introduction, we'll see some slides from Veronica, and after that we'll have two short presentations from Thomas and Liliane, and after that we'll have time for a short discussion. I have to admit that I'm a bit struggling with the platform, so I hope you can see my slides. Is this moving? 1 million species are facing extinction in the near future was the BRIM conclusion of the IPBES Global Assessment Report that was launched last year, the IPCC for Biodiversity and Ecosystem. This conclusion was reiterated by the Living Planet report by WWF of this year, which showed a near 70% decline of populations of mammals, birds, amphibians, and other groups. But I don't want to start this session with a BRIM picture, because I think there is also a lot of hope. IUCN last week released their latest Red List update, which also showed that effective conservation measures can support species recovery. So on this picture, you see the European bison, which due to successful conservation measures is increasing now from a population of around 2,000 at the turn of the century to over 6,000 at this moment. So what is IUCN? Assuming that not all NABC members know IUCN yet, I want to give a brief introduction. So we are a membership union with over 1,400 government and civil society members spread across the world, and we're the global authority and leading provider of latest knowledge, resources, and tools about biodiversity based on the work of over 10,000 experts that work with IUCN on a voluntary basis. Most importantly, we are a neutral platform which diverse stakeholders can work together and implement solutions for environmental challenges. So what is our vision and mission? A just world that values and conserves nature. And how do we carry that vision out? By influencing, encouraging, and assisting societies throughout the world to conserve the integrity and diversity of nature, and to ensure that use is equitable and ecologically sustainable. As mentioned earlier, I work for the IUCN National Committee of the Netherlands, which its first role is a membership platform. So this picture shows the breadth of our network in the Netherlands. Next to that, we are also a project-funded organization that works around the world, supporting over 200 Southern NGOs in programs that are spread in various parts of the world. And over the past 5 years, we have been implementing a program together with our colleagues from WWF Netherlands, who, by the way, are also, of course, an IUCN member, and the Dutch government, that is around building the international public goods, climate, water, and food security, in which we have worked in 16 countries around the world, 8 in Africa, 4 in Latin America, and 4 in Asia. And we've built on a multitude of topics, but part of that has been the building of business engagement skills. So as part of that component, we have been carrying out trainings around the globe, and these pictures are just a few elements to show the breadth of work that we have done on building the capacity of organizations and individuals to be able to engage with businesses and to understand the world of financial institutions. Our work together has led to over 350 desired changes in company, financial institutions, and government policies. Earlier this month, we launched a publication in which we featured 12 of these stories around the globe, which go from partnering on sustainable finance to tackle deforestation, to education on pesticide, or using dialogue to research for sustainable sugar production. At this moment, we're also working on a specific guide that will highlight our work working with financial institutions. But how does that look in practice? We've done a lot of things. So starting from the top of this slide, we had our Mobilizing More for Climate competitions, in which we promoted entrepreneurship around the globe. And these pictures are from Indonesia, from Addis, and from Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, where we had our competition. We've been working on influencing ESG policy of financial institutions. For example, the picture on the top with the discussion is in Indonesia, where Dutch financial institutions started a dialogue with local Malaysian banks, who are key financier of palm oil, to really improve their ESG policies. We've worked with large institutional investors. We've worked with our central bank, and the article at the bottom, which only can be read by people who understand Dutch, is a collective engagement which we started around water use issues within the mining sector, and which now has over 900 million assets under management, asking for improvements. So in case you're interested to know more, these are my details. And with that said, I'll close up this slide, and I'll probably struggle a little bit finding Veronica's materials in my inbox. So please bear with me for a moment whilst I'm trying to find Veronica's slides. And if there happen to be any questions now, please ask them whilst I'm getting the presentation ready. Share. Can you see this now? No. Veronica, can you confirm if you can see my slides? Because my screen is...
Yes, you just need to put it on exact.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes, now it is fine. Thank you so much, Romie, for giving also me the floor to be today with you and to talk a little bit about the global standard for nature-based solutions that IUCN recently launched. Well, let's say not recently, but in July, together with all of our commission's members. So my name is Veronica Ruiz. I'm Nature-Based Solutions Program Officer for the Global Ecosystem Management Program based in Switzerland in IUCN headquarters. Next slide, please. So you may now hear about nature-based solutions like everywhere in any discussion, any conversation, nature-based solution, nature-based financing, etc. But this is not something new. Nature-based solutions were already implemented decades ago. And it started in the early projects and approaches used by IUCN, like approaches like the forest landscape restoration, a really well-known and well-established approach, ecosystem-based adaptation, etc., etc. And the first time we saw where the concept, the term was embedded in a document, it was in the IUCN position paper for the UNCCC. But from there, IUCN's work has been evolving up to developing and setting up the definition of nature-based solutions. On 2016, during the IUCN World Conservation Congress, it was the first time that nature-based solutions were defined. And then moving from there, IUCN has been advising, for example, larger scale funding mechanisms such as the EU Horizon 2020, which is a 180 million call based on nature-based solutions. And from there, we have been evolving and then developing the IUCN global standard. And now we are in the process of rolling out the standard. This standard that was adopted by IUCN Council last February and will be operationalized by, as I say, IUCN. Next slide, please. But we are building on this global momentum on nature-based solutions. And it is not that we are switching from conservation into a new approach. That is not. We are building nature-based solutions based on the fundamentals of conservation in safeguarding nature, but as well now from safeguarding nature in conserving and putting in place actions that do what you will see in this left side, in safeguarding nature, but also in providing tangible societal needs to address specific challenges. This is in doing so that we are extending the reach and relevance of conservation to human well-being more systematically based on evidence. And it's something very important to always bear in mind. Not all conservation actions are nature-based solutions. However, all the nature-based solutions are conservation actions. Next slide, please. And seeking for a more sustainable way to meet societal challenges based on conservation principles, that's why we are embracing this nature-based solutions approach and to deliberately designing actions for protecting, restoring, and sustainable managing natural or modified ecosystem to help derive this benefit for both society and nature. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, nature-based solutions are in there to address societal challenges. So far we have defined 7 societal challenges. But as I said, this is so far because this can be evolved with the time. So we have these 7 societal challenges that you can see in your screen, starting from climate change, mitigation and adaptation, and driving to environmental degradation and biodiversity loss. Even though nature-based solutions are embedded in biodiversity, this is still a challenge that we really need to address. Next slide, please. And the most important is that nature-based solutions is not a unique component. No, it's a component and approach that is linked with different components of society, different components of nature, and different sectors and groups. So it is very important that we think about nature-based solutions as a connector that is ensuring the flow of ecosystem services. And in this way is providing benefit not only for society, but also emphasizing the importance of nature-based solutions and the importance of financing and funding nature-based solutions interventions. Why? Because we need to fulfill society and nature needs while not harnessing doing any harm to nature. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned, nature-based solution is based on nature, but also in linking with other type of approaches. And this will depend as well in the type of context. What is the context we are living? So in this context, we have to think about let's go beyond and then also find some synergies, not only with other sectors, but also with other actions. It is, let's put in place nature-based solutions that can be seen as hybrid approaches utilizing a combination for natural but also green infrastructure. Which means that through nature-based solutions, we are being able to establish a cross-sectoral dialogue and a cross-intervention dialogue as well. Next slide, please. But even though I'm mentioning that we need to think about more hybrid approaches based on nature-based solutions, we have to not be careful, but what we need is to really know what every concept means. Because now nature-based solutions is everywhere. Talk nature-based solutions, but not everybody knows what is the definition. And I can definitely understand because it can be a bit of confusing. And that's why we don't have to integrate other concepts within the umbrella concept of nature-based solutions. That's the case of nature-derived solutions. So these are solutions that are based on nature, but the final benefits doesn't come back to nature, but are providing benefit for society. For example, we have all the renewable energy. Does not necessarily lead to the improvement of the ecological system or an increased biodiversity, but it still is based on nature. And another concept that may be confusing, sometimes also integrating to nature-based solutions, is the nature-inspired solutions. This is sort of like copying from nature to provide benefit for both society and nature, but copying from nature. Next slide, please. So from all this confusion that is there outside, we needed a way of setting up a common language so then we can all understand what we mean by nature-based solutions. And this is the IUCN global standard that, as I mentioned, was recently launched. This is a facilitative standard for designing, evaluating, and scaling up nature-based solutions. This standard wasn't elaborated or developed by IUCN, a group of colleagues, staff in IUCN just sitting on their desk and then they're just writing for 2 years. No, the standard has gone through 2 rounds of public consultation, and the standard is the final product of a cross-sourced consultation engaging more than 800 experts from 100 countries across all the scales of the world. And then the standard is made at 8 criteria and 28 indicators. Next slide, please. For me, now you need to click once. So the first criteria is the one based on the societal challenges. We need to start at a starting point. And this is a societal challenge, what we want to address. The second one is the design at the scale. Even if we are focusing on a site-specific, we need to take the larger scale systems and risk into consideration. We just need to think about what could be the impact of our action. And then we move into criteria 3, 4, and 5, which are the 3 pillars of sustainable definitions. It is indeed unrealistic to think we will always have a win-win situation or triple bottom line or come straight up. So therefore, we need to come up with criterion 6, which is the one related to the trade-off. Each time decisions need to be taken as to what is used today and kept for tomorrow. Which stakeholder gains and benefit, who will get returns later down the line. Each time these decisions are context-specific, but we can ensure the transparency and inclusive decision-making to derive these decisions. If not, a high risk of promoting even further inequity or marginalization can happen. So this is where we come to criterion 7, that we are implementing solutions under changing conditions. Nature-based solutions that have to be able to adapt to different conditions. And last, is the criterion 8, which is the aspirational criterion that we have to embed and institutionalize nature-based solutions through sectoral policy mainstreaming, integrating into regulatory and operational frameworks of companies running in community-based governance structure for durability. Next slide, please. So the standard is made by, let's say, 3 components. We have the standard document, which is all the narrative explaining what are those different criteria. Then we have the guidance of it is putting more into context and giving more detail about. And then we have the 3rd component, which is the self-assessment tool. And this self-assessment tools is the one that can help us in evaluating and designing our nature-based solution intervention. That will come later. Next slide, please. Oh, it was a picture. So this is just to give you again a bit of overview about the different criteria, and I fully encourage you to go to the IUCN website and you can dig in a bit more in detail and learn more about the standard. Next slide, please, Romie. And one of the most important components, and still is not that well known, is the self-assessment tool. Then my colleague Liliane, she will talk about a bit also how the standard is being piloting, etc. So this self-assessment tool is really to help practitioners in understanding what may be the some not very strong point of the nature-based intervention. And this will help in setting up recommendations, in thinking about the future and how to enhance the intervention. But all these 3 components will be, and the well functioning of the 3 components and the well use of the 3 components will be ensured by a strong governance structure. Next slide, please. And this is a very important point because, of course, we have this tool. This is a monster that we have created, the first ever global standard. But how we ensure that the standard is well used and how we ensure that everybody can learn about the use of this standard. So that's why right now IUCN is in the process of setting up this global governance structure that is made by 4 main components. See, we have the user group. The user group is a global community of practice where people can exchange about the experiences in using the self-assessment tool. And then we move into the national and the regional hubs. This is one of the most important components because it's there where we can roll out the standard and then build the capacities at the regional and the national level, even going up at the global level. This is very important. We are in the process also identifying which are the champion countries, and there are so many champion countries already there in the world. And then very important as well is the Science and Knowledge Committee. We have to make sure that the science, the traditional knowledge, and indigenous people's knowledge is embedded and represented in the standard. And lastly, we have the International Standard Committee to ensure that it's oversight of safeguard of the standard, and a standard that will be updated every 4 years. And thinking about businesses, there is not only about the academia behind or more practitioners behind as well on nature-based solution. We have a high interest from businesses that have shown already and have talked there out loud saying we need to finance more nature-based solutions. So we have as well, champions businesses as well, as you can see here on this slide. But for keep engaging with businesses and for keep engaging with other different actors, we need to think about what is next. So next slide, please. So what is in next? We need to move beyond the simple use of the standard and to think about how we can ensure that when a practitioner or business or another actor is using the standard, how to make sure that this is a real nature-based solutions. So that's also why we are working towards setting up a certification mechanism, learning from other IUCN knowledge products like the Green List. But this will make sure also that we are generating an impact and that we are helping countries in contributing to achieve their national targets. For example, on Sustainable Development Goals or Paris Agreement targets, etc., etc. So this is moving from the theory really into the practice. Last slide, I have to say just thank you to all of you. This was the short version of what can be said about the standard. But if you have any question, please feel free to contact us, and I fully invite you to dig in our website and also to check the video of the IUCN launch that was in July, where you can have very inspiring colleagues talking about nature-based solutions overall. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Veronica, for your great presentation. I know you're not feeling well, so I think you did particularly amazing in presenting the slides. So in this session, we have many Dutch businesses who are maybe already active in Africa or interested to develop their business further in Africa. How can the global standard for nature-based solutions, as you just presented, help them further develop their work, and how can they get started? So I saw you showing a slide with some examples. I saw Boscales, I saw Shell mentioned, who are of course Dutch businesses. Could you give an example of how they have applied the standard already whilst I set up Liliane's slides?
Yeah, sure. Well, I won't give any particular example. Like I will rather present you what is the methodology to be followed. So the fact is, first of all, is having a trustful dialogue. We sit together and we, from an IUCN perspective, to understand what are the challenges that the business company is facing. And we try to work in very specific cases, which is much easier for our first pilot of the standard. And then together with them, what we do is to also to use the self-assessment tool. And then together with them, we identify what are the missing points, what will the challenging from them, and what could be the recommendation for the future. So these entails are really a really close work together with them. It's not something that we do in 1 week, but it's something that is being done that can take even over 1 year. From thinking from let's say screening the case until the point that we have the result. And of course, this result will lead into a let's say into a further step in how the case study can be implemented further on. But I have to say, working with businesses is I won't say that it's challenging. It's more enriching, because this is not well, I know our colleagues from the Business and Biodiversity program, they work with businesses, but from another team that we don't use to work with businesses, I have to say that it's very enriching, and it's bringing another view about what is happening as well in reality from another perspective. So I think it's very important to engage with businesses, especially because we are running out of time, and this is time to work together. Let's break the silos, start working together. We have been doing this for a while, but now we need to accelerate this collaboration.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Veronica. And I can't really see who's online, but if there's anybody who has a question, please unmute yourself. I think we have space for 1 or 2 questions for Veronica. Are there questions for Veronica? Otherwise, we'll move into the presentation of Liliane. So Liliane works for the Marine and Coastal Program for the Central and West Africa MACO Office of IUCN, that's based in Dakar in Senegal. She was involved in development of the global standard for nature-based solutions, and on a daily basis she's based at the Center of Ecological Monitoring to support them in their project on coastal risk and soft solutions in Benin, Senegal and Togo. And if I'm correct, Liliane, you are a native French speaker, so I think you're very brave doing this in English because I know how bad my French is. But I think with this you should be seeing my slides in a second. I'll just swap the taking some time to load. I think you have quite a few pictures. And you only have one slide, so please, Liliane, if you can present your work.
Thank you, Romie. Thanks for giving me the floor and for the interest in what we are doing in terms of nature-based solutions in West Africa. As you said, my name is Liliane Assogba Sessou, and I'm technical assistant within the marine and coastal programs for IUCN West and Central Africa office. And what else? I'm not fluent at all speaking English, but I will try my best. After the launch of the standard for nature-based solutions in July 2020 at the global level, a process of piloting the standard in West Africa was initiated. The IUCN Central and West Africa Program, PACO, in collaboration with Ecosystem Management Program, has designed the process of this piloting in three main steps. The first is a capacity building stage, a second piloting stage, and the third, a result sharing stage. Regarding the capacity building and piloting stage that are integrated, we held on September 24 an introductory webinar that brought together about 60 participants. After that, we launched a call for participation in working groups from October 16 to 30. And then interested persons were trained on the use of the standard self-assessment tool, 6 November, early November. And IUCN has made a follow-up, and 6 working group was identified at the beginning with corresponding case studies. But finally, we get 3 of them really functioning regarding the availability of teams members. So we supported these 3 groups to apply the standard. To auto-evaluate with this tool their pilots regarding the standard orientations. So 17 persons have learned by doing process. So they learn how to use the standard to improve potential advantage of their nature-based solutions. The capacity building and piloting stage involve participants from national and local institutions, NGOs, international technical partners, And also 3 countries' intervention was used as pilot in Benin, Côte d'Ivoire, Senegal. Tomorrow, 16 December, we will have an online workshop during which groups will present results reached for each pilot. Finally, in terms of perspective, we want to support the development of short publication on the standard pilot result, support the implementation of recommendations from the self-assessment, and the Waka marketplace that you may know, I don't know, is an opportunity to use these results to convince financial partners to invest more in NBS for coastal protection. Waka program is a regional, a bit big regional program founded by World Bank and other financial partners, donors. And that's purpose is more resilience, to enhance resilience in our region, facing coastal erosion and other coastal risks. So thank you. Thank you, Romie.
You're welcome. So I think I'll end your slideshow here and go back here. Thank you, Liliane. Very well done in English. During your presentation, you referred to some of the pilots that you're developing now in 3 West African countries. For those that are maybe less familiar with these pilots, could you explain how these pilots are built up? Because I think that can give people a better idea of how the various projects that IUCN is developing under the global standard for nature-based solutions are looking. So maybe you can give one example.
As I said, we finally got 3 pilots in Benin, Côte d'Ivoire, and Senegal. Mm-hmm. In Senegal, our pilot is focused on a project named Soft Solution and Monitoring of the coastal region in Benin, Senegal, and Togo, Waka FFM, founded by FFM. Mm-hmm. And that's work on dune restoration. The second pilot in Côte d'Ivoire focused on mangrove restoration. And the third is a package of interventions around marine protected area creation and other nature-based solution implementation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for this explanation. So we also had a third speaker, are only non-women, which I think is a good gender balance for this session. Thomas Louis Price, who is working on the Waka program, but I can't really see you, Thomas. So if you're there, please share your slides. Otherwise, we'll be moving into the discussions a bit earlier than I at least had anticipated. So Thomas, are you here in the session? I don't think so. So I think, thank you for your presentations, Veronica and Liliane. And I once again want to open the floor for discussion. I saw my colleague Edie popping up and out. Edie, do you see any questions that people have asked about the global standard? Edie is not there either. Okay, so maybe I should be asking the first question then. So I think part of the purpose of this meeting is really looking at this investor angle. So how can the application of the global standard for nature-based solutions help investments in coastal areas move in? So I don't know, Veronica or Liliane, if either of you can reflect on that first question. I see Edie there now too. Hello. I don't hear you. Yeah. So,
okay, well, it seems like it is only the three of us, so then we can have a full discussion. No, I'm on silent.
It seems like it is, right?
So if I may mention about, this is in the case of the coastal project that Liliane, she just mentioned, that we have been engaging both together, sorry, working together with the different working groups for now, I will say like 5 months almost, I will say, Liliane. Then tomorrow we are closing all this process, and then colleagues will be presenting their work with the self-assessment tool, which is quite exciting to see like how the standard has been able to be pilot from this big project, which is from Mauritania to Benin. This is a really all along this coast. Obviously, we have only worked with some specific pilots. Otherwise, it would have been like challenging, and we can spend like 2 years just doing the pilot within this project. But this is also thinking about, as you say, how to invest and how to set up the funding mechanism. In this case, we were thinking about how to bring the gray, the blue, and the gray together, because of course, is what I mentioned is we have to think about the context. It is very context specific, and the standard has to be adapted to this context. So sometimes I wish nature-based solutions were the panacea for all our problems. But unfortunately, there are some contexts that we really need to think about how we engage with the engineers, more with the, let's say, gray sector. And this is what we are showing with this pilot of the standard. It's like bringing the green. These are the green opportunities, the nature-based opportunities that you can combine with your gray approaches. Because this is important if we think at the long run. Of course, at the beginning, nature-based solution may be a bit more expensive, but if we see the cost of maintenance at the longer term, this is much, much lower than a gray infrastructure. And then if you see the final benefit, is of course, if we think about in the coastal erosion case with this project, it's like we are providing the services of protection, but ultimately we are also providing derived services like food security, water security, and other services as well. So we have to think in these perspectives of businesses. Like when using and investing on nature-based solutions, you are having a more broad approach and not just thinking about, like in this case, in the gray, but also in what could be derived and how society in general could benefit from.
Thank you, Veronica. And are you also already involved with involving financial institutions in that discussion? Because I think part of that struggle is the fact that green solutions have a different financial model, right? As you say, they're more expensive at first, and their payback term may be longer, but in the end, their benefits will be higher. And I think part of the struggle, what we often see, is involving and convincing financial institutions that actually taking that longer path of investment is actually the better one, but it's a model that's less proven, so it's harder to, so to say, sell that. How has been the experience on that in West Africa in particular?
Well, within the framework of this piloting of the standard, we haven't engaged yet with the finance sector. Mm-hmm. But from an IUCN perspective, and going beyond the standard, there are really well-established collaboration in terms of financing. We have the case with Mirova or BNP Paribas, and there is a recently also established the MBS accelerator. Also, we are working on the blue carbon financing. So this is something that IUCN is already working on and engaging more and more with the finance sector, especially when it comes to the blue carbon as well. It's a new area of collaboration, but it seems like it is like kind of accelerating the process.
Great. Thank you so much. I don't see questions coming in. I'm a bit afraid we're just with the four of us here, which is fine too. I think a question I have is that this Digital Africa Business Days have been developed for the Netherlands Africa Business Council members. So I think going a bit back to my earlier question, what can they do to support IUCN in this process? Are you looking for companies that can pilot the standard? Are you looking for partners in West Africa? Is there any support you're looking for at this moment?
Liliane, would you add something in terms of West Africa? Then I can add later on.
Yeah, I think actually in West Africa now, the coastal risks are at a stage where partners are more keen to invest in grey infrastructures. So what we have now to do is to demonstrate that nature-based solution can work and have more to argue more about the pertinence of these kind of solutions.
Yeah. And I see the question also from Jan Willem. I see it, Adi. So our colleague Jan Willem Den Beste, who is also on the call, has sent in a question. How does the global standard relate to or can be linked to existing standards and initiatives such as RED+?
So within the standard, as I mentioned, we have the 8 criteria, right? And then we have the guidance. Within the guidance, what are we providing? And we are in the process of publishing the guidance, but it will happen in 2021. And then we will give different sources of information where you will have, for example, the standard for the RED+, the standard for ecosystem-based adaptation. There are already plenty of things very well established in there. And all of these will be integrated into the global standard. Because if we think about climate adaptation, we need to use specific standards. But the point here of the standard is a more overarching standard, that we are touching upon other different components that perhaps were not addressed, for example, in the case of RED+ or other standards. Let's think about the forest landscape restoration. We have the ROM methodology on restoration opportunities. So this is more about forests. While if we use the standard, we are touching in other components to reinforce the use of a standard such forest land, the ROM methodology. Sorry. So all of this is part of the standard already. The standard is just the overarching structure. And within this overarching structure, we have well-established tools. Like, for example, any tools to evaluate ecosystem services. We can also we will also integrate tools for doing cost-benefit analysis, etc., etc. So all those different, let's say, initiatives, standards, protocols, they will everything fit into the global standard. For example, protocols like the Natural Capital Protocol. So everything is very well reflected in there.
Yeah. So if I understand correctly, it's more of a process-related standard then it's a model that you need to apply from 1 till 8, right?
Exact. Nature-based solution is a process-driven approach. Starting from the design to the implementation. And from this, we have to go from a stakeholder engagement, but also understanding what is the economic, the social, and ecological aspect of the intervention as well.
Thank you so much, Veronica. And I don't know, Liliane, if you want to add, please do. So I don't know if there's more people struggling with sending in questions. That could be. I think since we didn't have the presentation of Thomas, this session is now a bit drawing to an end. So I don't know if you have any final words you want to say, Liliane and Veronica. Liliane, do you want to say something as a thank you word?
Yes, just to thank you again and say that nature-based solutions for coastal protection are a very big opportunity for our region where people are very depending on natural resources, where there are a need of employment, and I think nature-based solution can really help our coastal community to enhance their livelihood and I may say, yeah, a big opportunity, and we need more support in this direction.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liliane. Veronica, do you have final words you want to add?
I will say that we are all on this together, and I'm calling any person that was following us on the session, but I fully encourage businesses, small, medium or large companies, other citizen groups, etc., to, if you would like to test the pilot, to pilot the standard, to please get in touch with IUCN, and we are happy to set up or design a process that might be suitable for you for piloting the standard. And just join us in the users group and join the global community of practice for the global standard for nature-based solutions.
Thank you so much, both. I think, first of all, this session has been a wonderful example from collaboration within the IUCN Union, having people from the Secretariat, from the regional offices, and from my side, and Adi from the National Committee. I think that's very wonderful. In a previous career, I worked for the Global Reporting Initiative, which also, of course, has a standard on financial reporting. And there, our tagline was always, you can invent the wheel yourselves and spend years practicing, testing things, working with colleagues, finding out what works and what fails, or you can adopt the knowledge and learning from others. And I think that's what this global standard on nature-based solutions offers you. It offers you a model to apply nature-based solutions within your work, keeping in different considerations. So I hope you're interested. Materials can be found either on the IUCN.org or our IUCN.nl website. And if there's anybody who wants to have questions or wants to have a private conversations with either of us, I think please reach out to us. And I see a comment again from Jan Willem. Yes, in the Netherlands, there's also a broad interest in nature-based solutions, and we're working into integrating nature-based solutions in our donor relationship role. So I think that's a very wonderful addition. I think, Adi, there's nothing else you can do beyond wave and smile. So thank you for being here, and I regret that you're struggling so much with the materials. I enjoyed having this chat. Thank you so much for your time, all of you. There's no wine or flowers, but there's a digital thank you from me. Enjoy your day, and I hope for the people who are listening that this was an interesting introduction into the global standard for nature-based solutions. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Veronica.
Au revoir.
For your support. Thank you for your support.